Hi everyone and welcome back to Life with Technologies YouTube channel. I hope you're doing well. So this is another episode of our Juniper Lab Simulation series. Remember, in this series we demonstrate to you how to configure, troubleshoot and manage Juniper routing and switching devices. So if you are learning how to operate and manage Juniper devices, kindly check out our previous episodes. So we've been demonstrating to you how to configure ISIS protocol on Juniper devices. We went through the basic config that you need to do. We also demonstrated to you how to configure the metric and also how to configure the levels. So in this episode, we focus on how to change the interface type to point on Juniper MX routers. So same as OSPF, ISIS also supports different interface type. We can have either broadcast or point-to-point. So you can decide which interface type you want to configure in your network. Many times in a production network, we configure it to point because remember, with the broadcast interface type, we need to elect the designated router, same as OSPF, and this one will take some time for the network to converge whenever there is a fault in the network. So to speed on the network convergence, we need to configure the interface to point type. By default, the interface type will be in broadcast, but you can change it to point. And many times in production network, as I've said, we normally suggest or recommend that you should change the interface type to point unless it's a network that is connected to a switch, unless it's a broadcast network. But if you can see from this topology, we are configuring ISIS on this point-to-point connection between the different routers. It's not in a broadcast kind of setup. So we suggest or recommend that you should change the interface type to point, which will help to speed on the network, converge and the speed. So when you check, we already have the previous configurations in place. On R1, let me go back to the system view. So if I show ISIS adjacency, you can see that we have two adjacencies as it was. Show ISIS interface. You can see that we have three interfaces in ISIS. If I do extensive, you will see that on these interfaces, we've selected the designated router. So on a broadcast type of network, we normally select the designated router, which will be in charge of exchanging the different types of packets or that network segment. So on this interface, you can also see that we've elected the DR or the designated router. When you check on the other routers, for example, on show ISIS interface extensive, you will also see the same output. We have designated router elected on the interfaces. So when you are changing the interface types, many times you need to merge. If you change one side to be point-to-point, you also need to change the other side to be point-to-point, or else that adjacency will not come up. So those are some of the things that you need to check when you are troubleshooting your ISIS adjacency. Do you have same interface type on the both sides of the link? If not, then you need to change one of the sides so that they are matching. So for us to demonstrate to you how to change the interface type, we'll just do on one of the interfaces between R1 and R4. So you can see that this is the interface going to R4, and we've selected the designated router, which is not us. So the designated router is R4. So if I change first, show ISIS adjacency, you can see that we have two adjacencies on this router, both level 2. Remember, we disable level 1. So I'll do configure. If I just change one side of the link to be point-to-point, we expect the adjacency to go down. So how you do it, you set protocols, ISIS, interface, this interface it's 1, and then you set it to point-to-point. So just one command is required for you to be able to change the interface type to point-to-point. You can use a question mark. You see other options that you have. So you can change the interface to be passive, but the focus for this one is to change the interface type to be point-to-point. Remember, by default, it's broadcast. So if you delete this command, you will be changing it to the default type, which is broadcast. But for us, we want it to be a point to point. So we set protocols ISIS, you specify the interface, and then you use the keyword point to point. So if I show pipe compare, you can see that this is the configuration that we are adding. We are just changing the interface to be point to point. And then I commit. So we expect that adjacency between R1 and R4 to go down because one side is point to point, the other side is broadcast network type. So if I quit and show ISIS adjacency, you see that now we only have one adjacency between R1 and R2. The one between R1 and R4 has gone down. Maybe if I show log messages, I don't know whether we should be able to see some logs on ISIS. Haven't changed the time, so the time may not be accurate, but I will be demonstrating to you how you can change the time. Maybe I should just filter ISIS. So many times you can use the trace options, which I will also demonstrate to you, and you should be able to capture the exact issue why the adjacency is not coming up. And that one I'll be demonstrating in the next session. So again, if I show ISIS adjacency, you don't see ISIS adjacency up between R1 and R4. So what we need to do is we need to change the adjacency on this side so that it's also point to point. The interface type should be point to point. So I'll set protocols ISIS interface G00, then point to point. Show pipe compare again to help you check what you are applying on the router, and then commit. So now we expect the adjacency to come up. If I check on this router, you can see that we have two adjacencies, one to R2, another one to R4. If I show ISIS adjacency extensive, we expect that on the one towards R4, we are not electing the DR. If I show this one will not show us, I need to show ISIS interface extensive. So we know that this is the interface going to R2. You can see that we have the designated router elected, but on this interface towards R4, we don't have designated router elected. So this one proves that this is a point-to-point connection. We don't elect the designated router on this segment because it's a point-to-point. We don't do that. On R4, you can also do the same. Run show ISIS adjacency. You check on the interface extensive. You can see that we have not elected the DR on this G00. You can just display interface and you see that this is a point-to-point connection. Same to R1. If you just show interface, you will see that we only have the point-to-point. This is point-to-point on this interface. So this is a very straightforward change that you just need to use one command, and the command is, if I show the configuration, show configuration, display set, you can see that you need this one line to change it from broadcast, which is the default type, to point to point. So you set protocols ISIS, ensure you specify the correct interface, and you should be doing it on both ends of the link. If you change one side, you also need to change on the other side of the link. And many times you should do it across the network. So you change it from on all nodes in the network, just to ensure that you have a uniform type of network, unless you have a broadcast type. Maybe you have some broadcast connection, some routers connecting to a switch, then you can go ahead and leave it to broadcast. But if they are point-to-point connection, then you should always change it to point-to-point type of network, which will help to speed the convergence of your network. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you've understood this part. I hope you will practice it. And if you meet any challenges, always feel free to reach out and we'll be glad to help you solve the issue. Thank you for watching again and see you in the next episode.